Hello and welcome. So I am happy to answer any questions that people have, and I got asked the difference between a for loop and an enhanced for statement. So now we are going to do that. So I have my Eclipse open. I'm going to create a new project, new Java project. I am going to say for versus enhanced. Ooh. I don't like that. Versus enhanced for. And we are going to use the latest that I have here and click finish. We're not going to do modules even though they were introduced, so don't create. And once I go over to my project explorer, I will create here new class and for versus for enhanced, and I will make it in my main. So now we have our main entry to our program, and firstly I'm going to do a regular for. So I have my counter, and for instance if we have total and set it to 0, and then we have 4 and we have a counter, so int count equal to 0, count is going to be less than or equal to 10, count plus plus, and we're going to talk through a little bit about this in a second. And then we're going to say total plus equals count this out, and we are going to print out the result. Not every time. Well, we can print it out every time. Let's have a look. Percentage D. So we can print it out every single time this loops around. This is within the for loop. So here we have our int total, which is just a random integer variable. So if you think of everything, every variable is a box within memory. So if you think of a physical box that you have and you want to call this box something, so you want to call it total, and what type it's going to be has to be an int, so it only holds ints there. It cannot hold anything beyond ints, so it can't hold a double, for instance. It can't hold a decimal letter. It can only fit integers in it, that's all. That's why it's really important to have this set in memory correctly. So with our for, then we have our counter. It's a counter controlled loop. So we have the first part of our for statement or for loop is a counter. We can call int count anything. It just means where it starts, its initiation. So the initialization of the counter is at the beginning. Then we have our counter loop continuation condition in the middle, so what it continues until. And then we have our incrementation or decrementation, and usually it's post incrementation, and then we can do whatever we want. So at the moment we've got count. We're going to say count, and we're going to add it to the total and allow it to be assigned to the total. For our enhanced for, then we have a lovely other way to do it. So we have, let's say, if I say int total Okay, so what we do is we actually take previous something outside of the for, we assign it to something within it, and then for every time that it loops around, we put it in it. So actually, we can do it with the for, or usually it's to do with strings, but we don't have a counter within it. So string this input, let's say, and we are going to say inputs, and now I need to create a string called inputs. Okay, so this is our string inputs. It's null at the moment. That is our input, and I create F, and I'm going to say input is, and I need to put in a percentage S and a percentage N as well. So this would be how it functions. So we have anything that we want to iterate through. So anything that it can iterate over. At the moment it's just one string. Usually it's an array. So if I make this an array of inputs, and then I can make it an iterator list array, which you'll probably get to another time. So red, yellow, purple. Okay, so this is a string array of type of, it's called inputs. So I have 3 boxes in memory, and I've called them all inputs, and each of them contain certain value, and the value is red, yellow, or purple. I can also do it in a different way, but I suggest watching the arrays video first. You can also say string other inputs equals, and then you can also have like the number of elements within it of length 5, and do it that way as well, and then access it through our inputs, and that would be then through a different means to do it, which we might do at the end of this video, but for now let's comment it out. So now if I run my code, great. So here is, this is within the for loop 0, this is within the for loop 1, this is within, I should put in a percentage n maybe here. And then also another line, maybe 2 lines to separate out, so it's easier to read, and run it again. Now, so we have this is within the for loop 0, 1, 3, 6, 10, 15, 21, 28, 36, 45, 55, okay? And then we have input is red, input is yellow, input is purple, and I've spaced it out by 2 lines there. So this is a really nice way to do a for loop. You can see here that because count is, let's say if I did count and then let's say equals for comparison. Okay, so it will go to, you'll see in a second, nothing will happen because it will never, it's not ever equal to 10. So there's one of the error prone problems with having a counter controlled loop, because it will never, count will never be equal to 10 because we've assigned it to 1. So that will never happen, unless what you can do as well is within here you can have count, and you can have this space empty and actually fill it later on. So if I initialize it in a separate place here, and then watch this. This is a little tricky because there's some different ways to do. This is within the for loop 10, and it just it doesn't do any iteration through it. It's just, it's 10 and that's it. There's no it's not counting to anything, it's not going to anything. But what if I said count is equal to 6, and then it would go the rest of the time. But you can see here that it takes the count, has to be less than or equal to for it to go through it. 13, 21, 30, 40. Okay, so you can kind of get the idea of what a counter controlled loop looks like versus a enhanced for loop. So the enhanced for loop then takes whatever is here, assigns it every single time that it sees an element within this array, it assigns it to string input, and then outputs the input. So this is more flexible because we don't have to guess. We don't know. If we were using an array list, that would be perfect because it's it doesn't have to be a fixed length array. If you have a fixed length array and if you already know the size of it, then a regular for loop is also okay to use. However, an enhanced for loop is way more flexible in that regard because you don't need to know how many elements are in the array. So if I was to also use, for instance, if I was to take all of these again, okay, and call it in input. Oh, this for demonstration purposes only, you can use this, but do not use these naming conventions. I think I say it almost every video now, do not use these naming conventions. So you can see here that I haven't changed anything within the enhanced for loop variable. I've just changed what goes into it. And it will print out, it will be flexible enough to print out all of them. So you can see here, input is red, input is yellow, input is purple, input is red, input is yellow, input is purple. So it's really, it's a really nice way to do it as well. Here as well, we can also do, we can also have errors with this as well. So we can say total, and total is 0, and it's always that. So this is a little bit strange way to do it, but it will always be 0 then. So that's also an error that can happen. So another way to write it then is total plus count. We could do it that way as well. There are different ways to write some of the code as well. And then we get the same for loop again. So what it's going through here is 1, count is equal to 1, and then it's less than 10, so it goes around the first time, and then it says total is 0, 0 plus 1, that's okay, so then it's 1 the first time, and then it goes around again, and it adds the previous, so it adds 1 plus 2. So here we have our count. The second time is going to be 2, but the total, or the second time around, the total is going to be already 1. So 2 plus 1 is 3, and so on and so on. So that's why you get this result, which if I keep on, if I keep open, it will show me. So then the next time, then the total is 3, so then 3 plus 3 is 6, and then the next time it goes around 6 plus, and then the next time is going to be 4 is 10, and so on and so forth, and that is why the loop is outputting these numbers, and that is why also the enhanced for statement is really useful because it's quite flexible. Okay, I hope that explained it. If you have any questions, you can also do, I guess you can also do any type. So I've chosen to do string. You can also do an int. You can do another type as well. But for now, it's just string because it's the most useful one when it comes to some string arrays and some of the videos that I speak about later on as well. So if you like the channel, please subscribe, and I hope you liked the video and I hope it answered your question. If you have any other questions, please comment below and I'll be happy to answer them. Okay, thanks for watching.